Good evening. Welcome to the second episode of Elephant in the Room. I was just sitting here singing to myself, like, who runs the world? That's how I'm feeling right now, I think we do to a larger degree, but that's a topic for another day. So, thank you for all of the views. I want to give a shout out to all of the people who signed up for me. I got a little list here. I'm sure there's more, but not all of you are making yourself visible, which is okay. That is your prerogative to want to be visible or not. So the shout outs I have here are Black Mike 313, first subscriber. You get the first subscriber award. Which, by the way, I tried to go live today. I was working on my live tools, so I can have screen sharing and all that. But that did not turn out as well as I liked it. So basically, we'll be working on that. I'll probably be playing with it tomorrow. So you'll see me in and out of live on tomorrow because I want to get that perfected because I'll be able to have a lot more utilization of tools. Kingo Cash, thank you so much for signing up. Appreciate you. Welcome. Deja D, thank you so much for signing up. Thank you. Fernita, thank you for signing up. Thank you. Who else do I have here? I have a Mike HC27, subscribe. And I know I have another one, Tina, but I don't know what happened to that one. My mailbox seemed to have gotten rid of some that I didn't intend for it to do. But those are the ones I know of. And then when I'm on YouTube, I have to figure out if it shows me names as well. I don't think it shows me all my subscribers. And again, you can choose to be an anonymous subscriber, which I'm okay with. I'm just about giving information. I have to tell you all, I am dead tired today. I'm so tired because I've had a long day. I've been up since early this morning. I had a test, a quiz. My professor gives quizzes that last 5 minutes. So it's all or none. I've been doing well on them because I've been doing the reading. I've been watching the videos. But this particular one was very interesting because it was talking about the wealth divide and how public health plays a factor in that. So it was very interesting. I got a new tool for my show I want to show you all. Yes. This is an African hand drum. This one was made in Kenya. This is another one that is older. I've had it for some time. It's wearing out. But this is another gift I got from Mommy, which was very nice. And it's definitely a relic for me of my ancestor Mommy, who has gone into the other realm. She has left us behind, but she did not leave us without tools and gems. Okay, so we got a great show lineup. I went to a meeting down in Houston. I think it was in First Ward. I'm still learning Houston, but it was in First Ward, and it was a women's meeting that was just talking about my show topic today, which you will see in the notes. So the first thing I want to get to before I even go to that is I want to discuss this concept that's called BIE. Okay, and so I'm going to pull up some tools. I have my other laptop here. I'm going to be kind of moving around, looking away. And I hope you all start reading those book recommendations that I gave last week. If you haven't already, some of you may be familiar. But I gave 2 big book recommendations, and I hope you all were able to go through that. If you didn't get it, just go ahead and go through the video again. It's closer to the end, so you don't have to go through the whole video. But if you've been through the video already, just go to the end. Maybe within 15 minutes of the end, I gave some book recommendations to start off with. I think that would be very good in helping to educate ourselves, because you know what? When you think about it, before the institution of higher learning, what do people do? I read somewhere that I believe it was Thomas Jefferson became an attorney. And the way they became an attorney back in the day is not the way that you become an attorney now. And these were considered great men in history. And so it's interesting the evolution of education and how we perceive education and all of the hoops you have to jump through now, which speaks to, the direction of education and student loan debt, which is another topic for another show, another day. But just lightly touching that, we have a lot of student loan debt in our society now. So it's very interesting what education was before and what it's become now. So just going to pull up this one topic that I want to talk to you about. What are you doing, computer? No, I just want to sign on. That's all I want to do. Thank you. Okay, so the first topic I'm going to pull up that was on my agenda list. It's my book for my coworkers. And I answer my own question. Yes, you all can see this. I think I could read backwards. So be bold, take risks, live life freely, lead by example, trust your gut. It's backwards for me, y'all, by the way, so I'm showing you my skills. Say what you feel, mean what you say. Isn't that one of my sayings? Say what you mean and mean what you say. Express gratitude. Believe in your power. Exceed your expectations. Dance the night away. Skip down the street. Don't take no for an answer. Read backwards. Be yourself, be your best self, and don't look back. So this is a book my coworkers got for me for my 40th birthday this year. Woo! And I've been writing my show ideas in here, so it's been a great help for me. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get on started. The first concept is the BIE I was telling you about. And what does BIE stand for? It stands for Black Identity Extremist. I'm sorry, I almost forgot that. Black Identity Extremist. And you say, how does that apply to us? Well, under the Trump administration, there is an initiative to curb free speech, in my opinion. And free speech and the press is under attack. And so this administration does not take very well to those who speak out against it. And now they've started this initiative, probably somewhere under the Patriot Act. I have to look it up. That's what I'm going to pull up here and move this out the way. I'm going to pull it up on my other laptop so I can look at the information since I can't share my screen like I wanted to in the first place. And I'm going to pull up what Black identity extremists mean to our federal government, because it's important, because, with all this Black empowerment, when you say Black power or Black empowerment, some people wince. They cannot stand people saying that. And, that's an issue, because why shouldn't we have pride? Why shouldn't we be proud of who we are? Why shouldn't we have Black power? What on earth is wrong with Black power? Now, I understand, the term was coined by, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember this correctly, I think Huey P. Newton. I could be wrong. I'll look it up. I'm about to look it up right now. Black Power coined by, let's see if I know my Black history. Move McAfee. Says in 1960s, late 1960s, early 70s. Oh, I'm sorry. So by Willie Ricks, an SNCC man before Carmichael. I was thinking Huey P. Newton, but I guess I was wrong. Ain't nothing wrong being wrong. But you know what? With the power of the internet, it's the first thing that come up when you put it up. Ha! Black power. The fist is there. We are strong. And you know what that meant? Together, united, we are strong. People just have a problem with the fist. So, says it's a political sign named for various associated ideologies and aimed at achieving self-determination for people of African descent. It is used primarily, but not exclusively, by African Americans in the United States. The Black Power movement was prominent in the late 1960s and early 1970s, emphasizing racial pride and the creation of Black political and cultural institutions to nurture and promote Black collective interests. No, get back in there. Get back in there. Excuse me. Put this on mute real quick because folks be doing stuff I didn't ask them to do. This is what happens when you're doing a live show with children. Kaylin, come close this door back the way that I had it, please. And I don't know why you got all these things to do. You had a chance to do that before you got on that game. That's why I take the game from you now, because you can't focus, okay? Thank you. So sorry. It's those mommy moments. They can happen at any time. All right. And so where were we? So the Black Power movement was prominent in the 1960s and early 1970s, emphasizing racial pride and the creation of Black political and cultural institutions to nurture and promote Black collective interests and advance Black values. And so it also goes on to talk about a range of political goals, form against racial oppression, and the establishment of social institutions and self-sufficient economy. Listen, to those who identify more with white supremacy and white supremacist movement, and they say, oh, it's racist. Let me tell you what it means right here. Black Power expresses a range of political goals from defense against racial oppression to the establishment of social institutions and self-sufficient economy, including Black-owned bookstores, cooperatives, farms, and media. However, the movement was criticized for alienating itself from the mainstream civil rights movement. That's a hint, huh? For its apparent support of racial segregation and for constituting Black superiority over races. So that's why people have such a problem with it, because during the movement, there are those who claim that we have strong genes, and genes so strong, in fact, that it might be the prototype for man. People have a problem with that. Well, blame biology. So anyway, so it says the earliest known usage of the term is found in Richard Wright's 1954 book Black Power. So there go a book recommendation. I said I was going to start jotting down these book recommendations so that way I can keep up with what the recommendation is. So that is Black Power, it said, the book. Of course, my pen wouldn't work, doggone it. My show is a work in progress. I'm not a person that really thinks I need to be perfect. So some people say, oh my God, this is just unprofessional. Oh, she doesn't have a script. It's not how I run my show. It's not how I'm going to run it. It's going to be off script. And the reason why I'm going to keep it off script is because I want authenticity. The more authentic you are to me, the more learning is involved, because you're not trying to create a reality. You are living in reality. And that's where I live. I live in reality. And so things are going to happen during the course of my show. Okay. It may not be perfect. I may find out that I said something wrong and correct myself right in the same show. I'm okay with that. I hope that you are too. But that is how I'm going to run it. That is what it is going to be. Walk with me, people. Walk with me. So Black Power 1967, that's a book recommendation. Richard Wright, we always thought it was Stokely Carmichael, I guess. I thought it was Newton, but I guess it wasn't. Richard Wright. So that is a book recommendation. Again, a lot of my books I get off of Amazon, and even if you go on YouTube, sometimes some of these books are being narrated for those on an extreme budget. Now, I'm not sure the copyright infringement on that, so check that out, you all. But I'm just giving that as an option because, people on the budget, we can't afford all this stuff. I'm going broke buying books. I ain't lying to you. I am really booking it out. My Kindle library is quite impressive, and I'm proud of it. And I have time to read through some of them. Sometimes I don't, but it's there. When I get the chance, I read. So reading is important. There are studies that are done that reading expands a different part of your brain because it requires you to use your imagination. Again, I told you I'm not a big quoter. You all may want me to go to sources and say, well, where did you get that information from? Look it up. If I say something, look it up. Prove me wrong. Type in the comments and tell me, you know what? You're actually wrong about that. Really? I didn't know that. Guess it is something to be human after all. So there we go. Black Power, 1967, Richard Wright. So what we were trying to get to here was Black identity extremism or extremists. Because we want to make sure we understand what this means. And so now I want to go to Black identity extremists, which that, if you're a person that like to play on words, that whole idea of black identity, and then you put extremists on the end of that, it's just, it's interesting. Let's see if I can find a document here. Black identity redacted. Pull that up in another window right here, right quick. But I'm also showing you how to be encouraged to do research. Sometimes you can't just believe everything people tell you. Let me see if this is the document that I'm looking for. I think it is. So this is the intelligence assessment. It says August 3rd, 2017. Black identity extremists likely motivated to target law enforcement. So that is the premise. And it's so interesting how we think these things are so confidential, but usually these things are made available because someone will get a hold of it and put it right here. It says this document is the property of the FBI and may be distributed within federal government and its contractors, U.S. intelligence, law enforcement, public safety, or protection officials, and individuals with a need to know. I need to know because I say a lot of things that are very pro-black, and I don't apologize for it. I don't believe in inciting violence. I believe in using other tactics, but at the same time, there have been times throughout our history where we have had to go to extreme measures in order to protect ourselves, to protect our safety. We're under the constitutional government in which we have the right to bear arms and protect ourselves. And I definitely exercise that right, just so everyone knows. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm a U.S. citizen and I am exercising that right. So here we are. So now that I know that I have legal authorization to have this, except for those on a need to know basis, well, you know what? I am on a need to know basis. So anyway, it says unclassified. So we know that it's not a classified document. So the executive summary, and I'm just going to try to go over this information, but not go over it in detail. So I am sorry, just kind of reading through this. So the FBI is basically assessing the likelihood, I guess from likely to very likely for the most part, black identity extremist perceptions of police brutality against African Americans, spurred in an increase in premeditated, retaliatory, lethal violence against law enforcement and will likely and very likely serve as justification for such violence. The FBI assesses very likely the increase began following August 9th, 2014 shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, and the subsequent grand jury November 2014 declination to indict the police officer involved. The FBI assesses it is very likely incidents of alleged police abuse against African Americans since then have continued to feed the resurgence and ideological motivated violent crime activity within the BIE movement. The FBI assesses it's very likely some BIEs are influenced by a mix of anti-authoritarian, Moorish sovereign. That's very important that they put that in there. You all need to understand what that means. I'll talk about it in a second. Citizen ideology and BIE ideology. The FBI has high confidence in these assessments based on the history of violent incidents attributed to individuals who acted on behalf of their ideological beliefs, documented in FBI investigations of other law enforcement and open source reporting. The FBI makes this judgment with the key assumption the recent incidents are ideological motivated. So they're attacking, it sounds like, our ideology. So if you believe in a certain doctrine, or they've definitely attached the Moorish society to this, I find that interesting because the Moors have been declaring lately that they can create a sovereign state of being by claiming a Moorish identity. And they get into some other legalities. You would have to follow the Moorish community in order to learn more about that. It so happens that I go with the ideology of, what's that attorney's name? I know it. I will have to pull it up here. But this particular attorney debated polite on Sonetta Studios forum, and basically, attorney Malik Zulu Shabazz. He goes by the premise of you're African American, that is a legal designation, and you can fall under that. The Moors tend to disagree. So I think it's important that we follow these arguments, see what's going on. But now, with all this being said, probably if you start watching videos, you might be a target, but who knows who's a target at all, I mean, back when 9/11 happened, people were finding themselves on, the no-fly list that were journalists, that were doctors, who had a particular ideology, who were lawyers. So you just never know when you might end up on these lists. But I'm not the kind of person that chooses to be afraid of these things. I'd rather live and die in my truth till I become an old lady and pass away, that I always told the truth, because that is important to me. So these are things that you all should research. This document is online. It says there's an original document of this contributed by Sharon Weinberger, Foreign Policy. So, I mean, it's here and it's available, and I suppose you can, I don't know if you can create a copy for yourself or if it's legal to create a copy for yourself, but it's just important to know this information. And with information, we can be armed with wisdom on how to proceed. So there are people in our society, as well as in our government, that disagree with the organization of people of color, and they disagree with a certain kind of organization, which, as a sovereign nation, I can't really say that I blame them, but I can say that we ought to pay attention to what is going on, because we know, unfortunately, in our nation's history, they have not always used the law in the way that it should be used. The example that I like to bring up, when I was debating someone earlier that's very close to me about this, and their concerns for me doing my show, is that Martin Luther King Jr. was violated on a regular basis, and he was preaching peace. He was preaching non-violent resistance, and that man was jailed, beat up. He was with the folks in Selma, all these things that was done to him. So in my mind, it doesn't matter whether you're peaceful or not. When these folks want to target you for whatever reason they are, I could be driving down the road, and if a police officer having a bad day and decide, he look at my black butt and I done got on his nerves or said the wrong thing or asked him any questions, it's my day, and I can't really do anything about that in my mind, as far as detouring myself from being a truth fighter. And that's what I consider myself. I fight for truth. I fight for justice in my own way, and wherever this road may take me, so be it. But that's the information that I know about. Um, I believe in, being peaceful, but I also believe in the right to protect yourself and defend yourself against a tyrannical government. And if our government is not behaving in the way that it was designed to do, we as the citizens are the checks and balances. That is the way our Constitution is designed. I challenge people to go back to the Constitution, read it, know the document of the land. It's like knowing the rules. When I buy a new item, I tend to look through the manual. That's just me. I don't mind reading. I like to see. I might skim through it. I might not read every detail, but I'm definitely going to break it open. So for those of us who are concerned about this and are hearing it for the first time through myself, please do re-educate yourself on the Constitution, re-educate yourself on the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act is an additional addendum to our Constitution. Realize that our Constitution has been amended. There are amendments to our Constitution. So people think, oh, that's not constitutional. Well, you got to wait till you get to the Supreme Court to argue it, because if the laws of the land decide that you violated it, now you're on an uphill battle defending yourself against whether you were well within your right or you were not within your right. But it's all based upon those who perceive it, and we're all subject to it, even though we don't call ourselves subjects because we live in a social democracy, under a republic. You need to find out what all those things mean, people. Got to start reading again. That's my point. We have to start reading again. We have to educate ourselves on what kind of government we live under, what kind of social structure we live under, and what is our theme, you know? So anyway, that is my 2 cents on that. Oh, and I do want to bring up that there was an arrest. That's what I want to talk about. There was an arrest under that. Let me bring that up so you all can research this information, because I'm all about providing information for you to research. I can't say who's right or who's wrong, who's this or that, but I will give you the information. So first arrest under BIE. That's what I'm gonna look under. I feel like I'm the search guru. I can pretty much find anything. So it says, is a court case in Texas the first prosecution of Black identity? But then you've got FBI makes first arrest. So, you know, when people title things and they put them on the web, you really have to look through this. The Atlanta Black Star has an article on it. I tend to trust the information in the Atlanta Black Star. They do pretty good. You got a website that's talking about anarchists. I probably won't click on that site because I don't want to be bothered with being tagged to them. The Huffington Post have put out an article about, you know, their belief in its absurdity. I personally think it's unconstitutional, and it could be argued under that. That's what I think. Because you cannot persecute people for their ideologies. You can persecute them for their actions, but you can't persecute them for their ideologies. I mean, even in our history, it's been difficult to prosecute the Ku Klux Klan. It's not as easy as you think. They have gone to court and got out. Okay? They've gotten out and off on things. So it's not as easy to prosecute in a court of law under these things. And so you have to have your ducks in a row and, you know, be in touch with a good attorney. So I'm going to go on to the Atlanta Black Star, because not everybody is reporting this, obviously for good reason, because it wants, you know, our country's history is brush it under the rug. The masses don't need to know. We'll let you know on a need to know basis. Nothing here, nothing to see. So anyway, FBI tracks and arrests Black identity extremists, and hardly anyone is talking about it. That's the headline for Atlanta Black Star. I was thinking of the word earlier when I was trying to talk about how I was reading that the FBI form, and I was trying to say I was paraphrasing, but the word escaped me. So I am going to review this article for you. So basically, 6 months after the FBI issued the report inventing the whole cloth the term Black identity extremists, claiming this group possesses a terroristic threat to police, the first apparent case of the prosecution of BIE has emerged. There's obviously concern in the Black community. It seems that it's targeting Black activists who've committed no crimes. And it says with more arrests and prosecutions than those involved in racial justice movements to follow. So the latest chapter represents the FBI. The Bureau recently created this, so it's interesting they have an arrest already. And they go into talking about the tradition of the FBI and its role that it's played in curtailing Black movements, which that's a part of history that's not lying on the FBI. So on December 12, 2017, in Dallas, Texas, I'm in Houston, so in Dallas, Texas, Christopher Daniels, also known as Rakim Balogun, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Rakim Balogun, was arrested during a raid on his home and charged with the unlawful possession of a firearm, the result of more than 2 years of FBI surveillance. So they were watching him for 2 years. They held him outside in his underwear and seized 2 firearms. The government claims he is barred from owning any due to a 2007 misdemeanor domestic assault conviction in Tennessee. Among other items, FBI took from Daniel's home was a copy of the book Negroes with Guns by civil rights activist Robert F. Williams, as if reading books is a problem, but I guess they'll use it as evidence. He was the first Black leader of his era, so they're going into Williams' history. He was the first Black leader of his era to support armed resistance to racial oppression, so they probably will use that. So following the Supreme Court's Brown versus Board of Education decision, Williams had revived the Monroe, North Carolina chapter of the NAACP amid Ku Klux Klan violence. In response to assaults on Black women that were ignored by the police, he organized Black workers and veterans, filed for a charter from the NRA, and formed the Black Armed Guard. The group repelled Klan violence against integration, and protected the Freedom Riders. Williams was also internationalized in the Black struggle as he and his family lived in Cuba. And then he wrote his book, produced Radio Free Dixie in China for a number of years. And he lived in China, I guess, for a number of years. He advocates violent self-defense because I don't really think you can have a defense against violent racists and against terrorists unless you are prepared to meet violence with violence. So that's his ideology. And my policy was to meet violence with violence. So that's what Williams was about. And so this gentleman's reading his book, getting information. And so there's a Twitter picture up. You all can go right onto Atlanta Star Black Climb. You have to probably search engine for first BIE case and see that Atlanta Black Star wrote on it. It says he was under surveillance from Dallas to Detroit to South Carolina. As far as his political activity conducted within the law is being criminalized. And so people are definitely putting up. The Huey P. Newton Gun Club put this tweet up. So if you want to follow them, they're probably keeping close watch on this case. Because, of course, we know court cases definitely play a role in setting precedents on how the law is interpreted and how anyone in the future will be handled under that law. So that's very important to know. And so this article goes into some more detail, but I just want to make you all aware. So basically that is it. And some other people are putting up some information. So it's an interesting article to read. I want to make you all aware. Sometimes through our media outlets, we don't always get all the news. And so as many sources as we have, we can. So that's basically it. Today I was supposed to interview my oldest son, but he bailed out on me. That's okay. It is what it is. He's a student. He's an athlete. So I can't really get too mad at him. He's got stuff to do. I got stuff to do. Our schedules don't always align. Maybe it'll be the next show that I can do it. So in this show, I wanted to, and I still haven't been able to get out because I wrote down that I wanted to get out and get on the campus and talk to these students. So I'm having to postpone some of these objectives that I'm writing down. Because it's been rainy, it's been cold, and if you know anything about Houston, we folks down here, tropical folks, they love the warm weather, even though they complain about it. But not just like this, you won't see them. It'll be like it's snow outside. You don't see people. And this was the Mardi Gras weekend. A girlfriend invited me, and I bailed out, because I was like, it's cold. I've been down here 7 years this year. Wait a minute, let me think. 7 years this year. So I've kind of become a tropical kid, being a native Detroiter. So that is that. So I wrote down some other information here. So funny how these episodes are going to be pulling together because I am not able to do everything I want. So the next thing I wanted to do was I am going to talk about it's another thing that's important to me. I am going to talk about, here it is. Get this before this one. Next topic, sorry guys, I am rambling. Next topic is this sexual assault case that went running around the internet of a little girl, and I'm going to look that up here too, of a little girl who was being more than taken advantage of. She is in a definite sexual abuse situation. But the striking thing about this particular case, which I'm sure you all have already been talking about already, and maybe you've moved past it, but I just haven't in my mind. And I've been thinking about it the entire time that I learned about it, listened to all the media outlets that I listened to talk about it. And the striking thing to me is how people were passing it around. That bothered me so much. Like, how could you pass this around knowing that a young girl is performing on a man that is many, many times her age, is obviously inappropriate, and you're going to share that with somebody like, look at this, even if you're shocked? How could you not know that you're going to be implicated in that particular crime. It is crime. It is a crime to pass around child pornography. You can't do that, people. You got to be smarter than that, you know. And it's just inappropriate. It should be on our mind not to even do anything like that. That's disgusting. And I have a lot of concerns about that. So I want to see if there's anything on this case. Young girl on Facebook, um, sexually abused, passed around. I don't know if I did that the right second. Facebook post, girl, um, young girl. They may have taken everything about it. Okay, so here it goes. So let me see. And it was sent to the police. So this is on. Yeah, so there it goes. She was being raped on Facebook. That's exactly what happened. It's disgusting. And there was a lot of concerns about that. So let me see what this one says. If there's some reports on it, I don't mean, it doesn't look like any major news outlets took it for some reason, and I don't know why. And I definitely don't want to pull up no video. And I'm hoping that this doesn't do this. But this one is under a juicy links. Now, of course, they are not advisable as far as a news media outlet. I can't say that I would recommend them as a news outlet, but this is the only where I can find information. I'm trying to see. It says this one was on February 2nd, so that's about when it happened. It says Lagos State's domestic and sexual violence response team has reacted to the viral video of a girl about 8 years old giving, service to an older man. The video went viral last week, shows man recording a criminal act. Although the face of the male partner was revealed, the girl in question had her face fully captured by the camera. The team on Friday via Twitter says the video has been forwarded to state police and they command an investigation. And so if you all want to look that up to see if there's been any other updates, I'm really curious if there's any updates on it. Let me see if I can say updates. Update on arrest child performing. See if somebody been arrested. Okay, here we go. Here we go. ABC. Yay. Okay. So ABC has reported on this. And the reason why I'm talking about this because it's segueing into what I was doing this weekend. I met with a group of wonderful women that I had the pleasure of sitting in on their meeting, and they allowed me to sit in on their meeting. And in turn, I was able to let them know what I'm doing, what my goal is for this particular show is to inform the community and start building solid relationships so we can begin to address and solve some of these problems. And again, you don't see me out in the streets, but I am going to be working on that because of, weather is just, I just know how Houston is. I mean, it'll be people, but they trying to get up out the rain. It's been raining. It's like 38 degrees right now, as my phone say. 38 degrees right now, and that's very unusual for Houston. It's been consistently 38 degrees, and so, that's not normal for us. So basically, the man was arrested in Alabama in connection with sexually explicit video featuring a young girl, and is also charged in Detroit with sexually assaulting 3 young female relatives. So he has a history. He has a problem. I really tend to wonder about these people and what we should do. And I have my own thoughts and theories, some old school justice in my mind, but that's me. So his name is Jermaine Moore with a G, Jermaine Moore, 44. He surrendered at 2:30 a.m. on Tuesday to Millbrook, Alabama police, just north of Montgomery. And he's facing sexual assault of a child, distribution of video depicting the assault, and first-degree criminal sexual conduct. I need to know the age of the girl. So the video circulated on Facebook, like I said, and so it was disgusting to see how many people were willing to share it. I just couldn't understand that part of it. Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy in Detroit, which some of us should be very familiar with, said Moore is expected to be extradited to Michigan on first-degree criminal sexual conduct, child sexual abusive activity, and other charges for sexual assaults alleged to have taken place from 2011 until last year at times when the girl's mother was working. The girls now are 12, 10, and 9 as far as the Detroit case is concerned. The victims live in Michigan. Detroit Police Chief James Craig told reporters Tuesday. He added that Moore had occasionally visited the family in Detroit and the girls had visited him in Alabama, so they trusted him. It's an ongoing investigation. People are shocked. He's basically saying in my years of experience with these type of cases, even though we're looking at these victims, I believe that they'll probably find that there are additional victims, which there usually are, unfortunately. And says they're aware of the video being in circulation, but initially were unaware that the actual suspect had a connection to Detroit. The Alabama State Bureau of Investigation Lieutenant Brooke Walker said Moore's fiance was arrested Monday night and is not cooperating. Police in Montgomery charged Jarrell Washington, 42, with distributing the video. So, you're disgusting, Jarrell. Police in Alabama and Detroit warn against people sharing the video, even in outrage or risk being charged. So when you see videos like that, people, for the record and for future intended purposes, do not share that video. Think about the baby. I know you're like, oh my God, what is this? Somebody tell me. I get that. But what we have to think about first is protecting our babies. They are more important than our shares. And so maybe some people thought it was appropriate to share. That's unfortunate, but this segue me into what I went to meet with the young ladies about. These wonderful, strong, inspiring women who have dealt with some really serious things in their life. And I connected to Dr. Joy DeGruy's work, which is post-traumatic slave syndrome. I didn't take any pictures, and even when I mention these young ladies' names, I'm going to not mention them by name per se because I want to protect their privacy, but I just really want to talk about their stories more than anything. That's what matters to me. One thing I want to say about sexual abuse is I actually have pulled up some numbers about this as far as how they affect us. I sent the email to myself because I wanted to have some numbers on that. I thought it was important so that we can be clear on how this affects us as a whole, and that they are not isolated incidences. They are common. Many women suffer in silence to relatives. More commonly, it's more commonly happening inside the home than outside the home, meaning a woman is more commonly abused by someone that she knows than someone that she doesn't know. Those are the statistics, and that is according to Centers for Disease Control and also according to the WHO, World Health Organization. So this is where I pull up the numbers from, and I put the wrong password in here somehow, some way. Nope. Get into my email. Gee whiz. Okay. Oh, I think I sent it to my Gmail. All right. Let me see if I can put the wrong thing here. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. Like I said, my show is on. My show is going to be on a case-by-case basis. I'll plan as much as I can, but some things I just get out as I think about it. And it'll be more organized as I go along. But for right now, I am feeling my way. All these passwords, it's hard to keep up. It's my Gmail here. So I sent 2 different kinds of data set to myself. One of them was through the WHO, and the other one, what did I do with the other one? Okay. I think the WHO document was very long, and I wanted to look at the CDC document more. Let's see, what did I do with that CDC document? I may have saved it on my phone somewhere. Now I'm not thinking about it. I just had such a busy day that it is not going exactly how I planned it, but that is okay. So let me pull up the World Health Organization form. And the other one, did I just save it to my desktop? What did I do with that? Because I did intend for it to be. No, I don't want to switch to beta. I just want to pull up this form. I wonder how long it's going to take to download. Okay. So while I'm pulling that up, maybe I'll read it to you all at the end because it may take some time. I can pull up with Acrobat here though. Hopefully it won't take too long. But when I met with these young ladies and they shared their story, and they're grown women, I say young ladies just out of respect. That's just my little term, but I mean in disrespect. I have, and there was a young man there too, by the way, which is another elephant in the room, that our young men are suffering in silence. And it's not to take away from the ladies, but this is a demographic group that is not being addressed. A lot of them are, like I said, suffering in silence. Their numbers are low as far as statistical data because, it's embarrassing. Men have astigmatism. They don't necessarily have the same sympathy that women do when it comes to reporting these things. And so they shy away from it. They shy away from it. And some of them are experiencing it at a very young age. And this is something that we need to put out here in our community. And we need to start talking about it. I want to hear your comments. Please comment in the comment section. Your comments don't show up right away because I screen them. I will not have nonsense on the page. I screen it for certain language, so please try to use intelligible language. I ain't going to fall apart if you curse, but I prefer that you do not, because there may be families choosing to watch this show to get information. This is not just an adult show. This is a family show. And that's my target audience because I intend to bring families back together. And so the only way we're going to do that is begin to talk about these hard issues that are plaguing our community. I know family members, myself, I know friends that have dealt with various forms of abuse in their life who have shared with their stories with me. And so this is not something that I'm foreign to. Just a little bit about me. I have never been a victim of sexual abuse or physical abuse for the most part. I mean, I've had relationships where, things have gotten heated and maybe, some things shouldn't have been done that were done, but I've never been under the umbrella of just having a man just haul off and just beat the crap out of me. I've been lucky enough to get through my life without dealing with that, but I know women who have, that's their story. Someone that they really love just start this cycle of just hauling off and slapping the crap out of them, or, whooping on them over and over again. And it's painful. It's painful to know that this is happening to someone that I love and know. And it's painful to know that women deal with this because I'm a woman. And it's also equally painful to know that men suffer in silence from domestic abuse from their women as well, because there is a statistic out there that women are more likely to be abusive to their men than men are to women. That's a new number and factor. You can look it up. I've got some information here has come up for me. It's a lot of information, so I have to really go through here and look for it. But it does have an index and a table of contents, so I'll be able to look at that and decide where my information is. But we'll do that in a little bit, okay? But I want to go over, and I know I said I was going to go over the stats first, but I think I'm going to just go ahead and go into their information. Then we're going to look for the stats here so I can give it to you. But I had a CDC document, and I'm trying to really remember, where did I send that? I thought I sent it to my Gmail. But I guess I did not. I'll look for that in a second. Okay. So Dr. Joy DeGroo's been working on a concept called post-traumatic slave syndrome. And it is her belief and theorem because it's becoming a theory, that uh, we have been suffering in silence for many years for the slavery that our ancestors endured. And so because most of them are in large part passed away and on into the next life, the realm of the ancestors, that they never got a chance to really get justice. They never had any closure, which we now know that's a necessity to healing. And also, if you read anything about post-traumatic stress syndrome in soldiers who, in large part, this has been assigned to, and it's umbrellaed out from there to many other groups dealing with trauma. There are steps, there are signs, and there are um, distinctive ways in which this is strategically handled and people are healed. Okay. And what we found in history and what some of the leaders in this subject are talking about um, is how the slaves, when they were released from that awful, awful servitude, were basically not only left alone, they were further abused. Outside of that initial trauma. And so subsequent traumas have happened and continue to happen to this day to the ancestors. And now there is information out here that the experiences that we have are biologically stored. Now, how do we know this to be true? Let's look at the animal kingdom. Again, we are part of the animal kingdom, whether we like to admit that or not. We are under that hierarchy as far as speciation and organization. And so, um, within the animal kingdom, they've done some tests. One of the tests that I read about was on mice. Um, and the mice were tested for memory of a particular event that they didn't like. I'm trying to remember what the exact. It wasn't considered necessarily a trauma, but it was something that they didn't like. And so when that was introduced to the mother alone, the mother behaved a certain way. And then when it was introduced to a mother who was pregnant with a child, that had a particular effect. And what they tested once she had the um, the the rat child, the offspring, they tested again to see if that offspring recognized that particular item or experience that the mother didn't like, and they recognized it. First generation. It didn't even have to go beyond first generation. That is the alarm of the test. So can you imagine? So if something bothers your mother and she's carrying you, you are affected. Now, let's think back. How many slave women carrying children were traumatized? How often and how deeply? So some of these things that we're experiencing, some of these behaviors that we display, sometimes we have a perceived emotional issue in our community. Now, I'm not going to take away from the fact that we are resilient people. We're strong. We have found a way to cope. But the emphasis is on the fact that we never received treatment and care. Okay, because the people of those times who still exist to this day and who also are carrying memory. That's another part of the study, that there's memory on two parts of the transgressor and of those who were transgressed against. So this is just not something that's affecting, the victim. The assailant is also being affected and storing memory and passing it on to their offspring, not only through verbal, but also through genetic information. So this is that long time argument, nature versus nurture. And the studies are coming back, man, that strong evidence to support that trauma of numerous kinds, pretty much of any kind, can be passed through genetic data. Why is this information important? Well, it may explain why some people can't shake being racist. They can't stop. It's almost like sometimes when I talk to people, because I go on to Twitter and I'm going to have a segment where We funnily, when I learn to share my screen, we funnily go through Twitter and look at how people respond in real time and watch some of these debates that I have with people on Twitter, and how I find a way to kind of shut them down through logic and through conversation, and not behaving emotionally towards them. Although inside of me, I do feel a certain kind of way, the way that they're behaving, but I choose to react to them in a particular form or fashion to, um, exude my dominance over them as an intellect and to control the situation. And it's not an easy thing to do. It's a practice. I've used it my entire life on people, and the way I respond to them and the way I make people respect me. It's a tool. And so I use this tool on the illogical behavior of these people who, anytime they hear anything, pro-black, pro-Africa, they react, even if you're not talking to them. You don't even have to say anything to them, and they're on your page and they're all over it, and they're thinking that they've got to defend some kind of ideology of whiteness. When you're talking about blackness, they automatically think they have to start talking about whiteness, and it's just interesting. And I think that dynamic can go both ways. I'm not going to just make it all one way, because there are people of color who are very reactionary, towards white folks who try to claim their superiority. But at the same time, we have to understand what power structure we in, who is the supposed dominant group, and what power do they hold, and how do they express that power. And so those things are important. So anyway, back to, this, just how all that dynamic of post-traumatic slave disorder really plays a big role in how we behave as human beings, and how we've been experiencing things. So the first young lady I talked to, I described her as having lock extensions. Some of the women are going in and growing their hair natural, but they don't want to lock their hair, so they go get the lock extensions that look like locks, but they're hair weave. And so she had lock extensions. She looked beautiful, and she basically runs a group within her church. And it started with Glorious. I don't know why I didn't write the rest of this down, but basically her premise is Superwoman Conference. She has a Superwoman Conference annually, so I'm hoping that she's out on the web, because I was kind of in a rush when I left there, so I didn't get all the information. She had to leave before me. But she said some really powerful things. So basically, real quick, her story was that she had been married, and the marriage that she was in, to a man who had church positioning, I believe as a bishop, if I'm not mistaken, and how this man had put her into a situation where they were doing a function at church, and she felt that the spirit had told her not to go to church that night. And the night that she chose not to go to church, come to find out that the gentleman had proposed to another woman. They were married. Okay. So that was a form of abuse for her. The second thing that happened, if I remember correctly, because I jotted their stories down, when her story was going on, I didn't have my pen and paper out, so I kind of was writing in hindsight for her. Another issue that she had was, after she got out of that marriage, she got into a subsequent marriage that didn't turn out very well. And I'm so sorry for not doing the sister's story justice, because it was a very deep story, and I'm trying to recall information. And then the person afterwards that she just told the story that she was just done, with relationships, because she had suffered so much abuse in her life from these men. And I believe there was, I believe if I'm thinking right, with the second gentleman, she was saying that there was physical altercations, okay, and that there had been some abuse in her life as a youngster as well, that kind of stemmed some of these things, and just learning that these things have a cycle is the point. But one thing I wanted to bring up about this sister story was the Superwoman Conference. So if you need help with this kind of thing, maybe her conference might help you as well. And I'm hoping that she's online. She didn't give a website, but if you Google Superwoman Conference in Houston, Texas, maybe some information will come up. And I told the sisters to please watch my show every Sunday, and to send me Gmail information, so that or an email with their information, so that way I can know who they are and we can begin to team up. So hopefully we can get that connection. And then she made a statement in her story that was just so powerful to me. And she said she had to learn to wait without the weight. Now, I personally had not heard that before, but I'm going to say that again for you all. She learned to wait without the weight. So WAIT wait without the WEIGHT wait. Why is that powerful, you all? It's powerful because the weight, heaviness of abuse is powerful. And again, I haven't experienced it myself necessarily. I'm sure I've probably dealt with some emotional abuse for some of these men. I could claim that, honestly. I hate to have to claim it, but I've dealt with some emotional abuse in my life from men, just not saying the right things and behaving a certain way, cheating. That can be emotional abuse because you tell me you want to be with me and you go off and you cheat. And, well, I mean, do you want to be with me or don't you? So I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that. That definitely is emotional abuse, especially when they tell you they love you and they go off and do the same thing again. So I guess I have been a victim to a certain extent. I'm not going to admit that. But the weight of abuse that it holds over the victim is long after the incident occurs. And it's not a one-time thing. A lot of times women who have been abused find themselves in those same kind of situations over and over again. And these sisters told a story to that effect. And it was just so powerful to sit there and listen to them. It made me think one or two things. It made me think, honestly, how privileged I have been to not be in those situations, to not have to cover a black eye, or to not have to be embarrassed that my family knows that this is happening, or hiding from my family, or hiding from my children, this type of ordeal going on in my life. I haven't had that experience, and so I consider that a privilege because women, a lot of women, they don't have that. And we know around the world, if we include the world in this, we know women are treated badly. If you follow my Twitter page from my website, elephantintheroom.us, I'm going to begin to put more content on that website as well. But it does link up to my YouTube channel and it does link up to my Twitter account. And so basically, if you connect on those in my Twitter account, you will see that I've posted some videos that talk about education in women, which is a problem. And it talked about basically how poverty plays a role in stress. There's some other videos there on that. And just, I think my Twitter feed is pretty rich in content, more so than my YouTube channel right now and my web page, because I've been kind of on those longer. And so I tend to post information as I think is relevant and as I think is helpful. And I've had quite a few people following me now based upon what I post and how I deal with these people who have a sickness called racism. And I'm tended to think that prejudice is more a smaller problem, that racist is the larger problem. It's graduated to that in high numbers. And you can't, like I said, you can't get through anything on social media without someone making a racist, horrible comment. It's gotten that bad. But we will have people in America say it doesn't exist anymore. How does that play into sexual assault? Well, racism played a very major role into sexual assault. Because a lot of times our men, under the pressure of being black male in our society, I've often talked to my cousin, who I have a close relationship with, cousins really, but one cousin I hang out with, have been hanging out with, for many moons. We've had lots of experiences together. Shout out to Tina. And just sharing with each other and loving on each other and helping each other through these very emotional experiences of trying to find love in life, because isn't that our goal, to find companionship, to make families, replenish the earth, be a contribution and try to live a fulfilling, happy life. And in that struggle, it doesn't always happen in that 1, 2, 3 order that we would like for it to happen. I don't know too many women out here with a story. And as I go down this list, you're going to find that there are women who had that ABC order and still found themselves in these situations. So it's not exclusive to women in poverty or women who didn't grow up right, or they didn't have a daddy. That is not the case, people. We are talking about a pandemic that affects everyone. But my focus right now is Black woman because my page is about Black empowerment. That's my focus. If anyone stumbles across my page and says, that's all you talk about is Black people, what about everyone? I don't see color. I'm sorry. That is not my focus, and you have arrived at the wrong page. Now, if you want to utilize Black empowerment to help you, it can surely help you because we are the catalyst as far as why the world even changes, if you want to be honest, because of us standing up for injustice. Black people, yes, you're welcome. We do that. Okay. And we have done it. Yes. Have there been other culture groups? Yes. But I'm telling you, we have been, when I do my research and I'm looking at who has been the standing forces in a lot of these human rights struggles, it's been us. We've been pushing the envelope for a long time against this manifest destiny doctrine that falls under or actually white supremacy falls under the umbrella of manifest destiny. You all need to look that up and see what manifest destiny meant and where it came from and how long it's been on the books and the ideology of Europeans. It goes deep. So that was the first lady. The second woman was great story. I met her through my work. She was taking care of some business, and I'm very sensitive about how I present this because I have to protect my workplace and I have to protect the integrity of the client. But I met her through my workplace, and I'm telling you, I felt the feeling that I need to kind of talk to her a little bit more deeper because the situation that she was in, she was basically taking care of some business with a loved one, and that stemmed into the situation that she was basically dealing with. And so, to protect, her, I don't want to go too deep into that, but basically I met her at work and we got to talking, and we talked for, I swear, about 15 minutes. We exchanged information and she invited me to this event and I was there. And so because I was there, I'm able to deliver this information to you. That's my whole point, is to begin to talk about these things that we don't want to talk about because they're embarrassing, they're difficult, they're painful to talk about because some of us are still living in it. And I want to put those women in contact with resources and groups that are working on this. And I'm going to continue to do work and find groups for you. So if you email me on my Gmail, that's maiainsitu@gmail.com, MAIAINSITU @gmail.com. That's my email. My phone number is on the website. That's my business line. I take calls. And so as this movement that I'm creating grows, and I know it will, I intend to help people get in contact with the right people and try to get them some help, because sometimes we don't want to contact the people that we know. And sometimes a stranger is our beacon. I will be that stranger. I will be that stranger. I will try my best to help. I can't guarantee I'll do everything perfect, but I will try my best. Again, my intentions are good. I'm coming from a humble place. And I want to see us get better. But we got to start talking about some of this stuff. So we'll call this particular person met at work. And so she talked about how therapy and treatment was absent in her life. She had experiences as young as 9 years old. I remember that very vividly in my mind because it slapped me in the face to know a 9-year-old would experience something like that. And the person was family. I'd rather for her to tell her own story because she's in the process of writing a book. And once I find out her book has been published, I will definitely put you on to the sister. But it was a family trauma, someone that she should have been able to trust but could not. She was in a situation where her mother could have known, but maybe she didn't because of the situation. And her premise is trauma leaves clues. That is what her book is about. That trauma leaves clues, and so the clues that it is just sending vibes through my body when I say it right now, because these people, their experiences in life are so deep, and their story deserves to be told by any means necessary through any outlet. And I was so privileged to be able to talk to them, and they sharing their story. And you know what was even more powerful? We were in a particular cafe, coffee house, closer to the south side, right down the street from downtown Houston. And that area was very much plagued by the flood. As a matter of fact, it had been raining very much this week. And when I was driving down there, the other side of the freeway coming back home, one of the underpasses, because the water is coming up out of the sewage grates, because sometimes water here in Houston don't have nowhere to go. They've only dug so deep because of the lay of the land. And a lot of times we're digging our underpasses very low, and so what you think is high ground is really not that high ground. And so they have markers on the freeway where you can see the water going up. But anyway, that side of the freeway was messed up, and I warned the young ladies that, hey, getting out of here, if you're going back to the north side, is rough, because the waters is coming everywhere. So people are still dealing with Harvey's situation here. It's interesting, just the level of trauma we all have to deal with. So can you imagine, being a person dealing with this kind of thing, and then you're dealing with Harvey, and I mean the trauma just keeps coming, for some people. They can't stop it. It just keeps piling on piling. And that's the point, that they never get a chance to get over it, because the family is not addressing the issue, which many of us um, can attribute to. They don't know how. They don't know. We as Black people, we don't believe in therapists. We don't believe in psychological work. We don't believe in the psychiatric community. And sometimes for just cause, because of our history with the medical community. But we don't deal in that. We don't get help. And we haven't had help. Um, and so her saying what's helped her in her life was she eat the meat and discard the bone when she thinks of fish. And that's a saying that is definitely within the conscious community. When you're learning information out here, everybody's not going to have everything that you need, okay? So don't expect for anything to be a cure-all. But when you're getting information, the concept to use is eat the meat, spit out the bone. So what you don't need, you won't use. Don't worry about it. Use what you can and build upon that. She made a comment that people are not worried about your healing. That was so powerful. She had made the comment that sometimes, you become this problem person. Everybody looking at you like, oh Lord, here they come. And my close cousin, who deals with things that she's dealt with in her life as well, has expressed that sometimes people just don't understand what you're going through, and you need someone to talk to, but it becomes a point where even those people get wore out, because they can't help. The situation is so emotionally draining and exhausting, and they want to help, but they just don't have the tools, and so that person ends up going in a loop within themselves of depression, of anxiety, of just lashing out behavior. They're acting out a lot of times, and so they don't have anybody to turn to, and it's just a horrible, horrible cycle. She said, people are not worried about your healing and will overanalyze your story. So she kept saying that people would tell her, get over it, get over it. That's bad. That's bad. And I hope I've never made anybody feel like that. That's been dealing with a horrible situation, to tell them to get over it, because I would never want to make them feel like get over it. I would want them to feel like, I want you to get past it. I want you to grow, but I want you to deal with what's going on with you. Don't run from it, because if you run from it, it's just going to be sitting there waiting on you to come back to it. And somehow, um, uh, life has a way of putting you right back in that spot. Even though you thought you got away from it, you ran from it, you can ignore it, and somehow come back slapping you right in your face when you least expect it. And so we have to deal some way, somehow, with these issues, and we've got to find a way. Um, Her advice was admitting there's a problem was the first step. She thought Alcoholics Anonymous had this right by admitting is the first step. But there is a model out there for dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder, trauma, sexual abuse. There are models out there currently in the sociological and psychological and psychiatric communities to help people through this. Some people are able to deal with social work, um, which in large part points you to the direction of psychology. And then psychology tries to interpret the problem and determine whether you need to be medicated or not. Because sometimes just simple talking about it and therapy sessions just are not going to get it. Some people need medication, and it's unfortunate. I wish holistic medicine could solve everything. In my mind, it does, but in reality, it doesn't. It just doesn't. Some people stories are so deep and so horrible that they really need to be sedated for a little while. They need rest. Their mind is gone. They need to be put to sleep, just to go to sleep. And I've heard of those kind of therapies before. There's just so much information out here, which again, my site is going to begin to show some of these resources. It's going to be a go-to resource as I build upon it. But right now I'm just in a conversational stage of what I'm able to do. And I will progress this thing along. One thing about me is once I get something started, I continue and I do it and I take care of it. So I'm going to be working with you, family. We're family, you know. A team is no stronger than its weakest link. And so if you're weak, I got to get you strong so that you can be better, so you can help your family, so that you can help your neighbors, so you can help your friends. This is a community effort. The African parable is it takes a village, okay? We're not alone, okay? And so we have to stop treating each other like we're alone. We have to start communing with each other again, and we have to start um, trusting each other again. And in turn, when someone trusts you, don't go tell their business. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because people talk, and people won't keep the secret that you had to get out. And I know sometimes it's overwhelming to listen to someone else's secrets and be a secret holder. And sometimes you just need to get it out. I don't think it's anything necessarily with people being malice. I think it's more so that sometimes some secrets are so great that people can't hold it because it's so much. It's so hard. And so if you're going to entrust somebody else with the information, you better be sure they're not a big mouth, person that's going to tell everything, that you got to get it out. I don't know, whisper to your dog. If you got to a dog, you're never going to tell the dog the secrets, whisper in their ear. Dog will listen. I know my dog will listen all the time. Dog will listen. But sometimes you have to create some kind of they call it fiduciary duty, but in that case, it really wouldn't be fiduciary because you're not really dealing with finances. But you have to build some kind of trust between the people uh, to create that balance in our lives again, so that a person can feel they can trust you and give you their information. And in turn, people, you have to learn that healing is a process. Um, it's just so many dynamics to this. It's not an easy thing. It's not a one size fits all solution. Um, but she felt admitting the problem was the first step. And then she also said, another sister said something else, and I'll get to that, but basically admitting the problem was her first step. She also said it was very important to know your history, learn family history, and mentality. So the learn family history part is that she learned that her mother had dealt with situations. And so this stands the question of genetic encoding that the science community has been working on to determine how much genetic code is passed on through behavior and how much is learned behavior. That nature versus nurture argument keep coming up. Mentality, she talked about the mentality that you have to have, not even necessarily just pretending everything is rosy and I'm going to be positive about everything, because you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. They're not always going to be in that order, and you're not always going to know when they hit you. You might have been okay when you woke up, and by the end of the day, you are a different person. Okay. And so that's a dynamic that individuals who are dealing with this kind of thing have to balance, and it's not easy. So if you are a supportive person, be understanding, be willing to deal with their mood swings, because they're going to have them. They're going to have mood swings. They're not the same person that they were. They've been compromised, and you have to understand that. Just like when your car's been hit, ain't the same car no more. I don't care how much they put those parts back together and look all shiny. It ain't the same car no more, and it can have residual effects that you weren't expecting. I don't mean to refer to people as a mechanical thing that has no soul, no spirit, no feelings, but I'm trying to give an analogy here to help you understand that if even a car is not the same after it's been hit and repaired, can you imagine the damage that can come to a human being after they've gone through what they've gone through? And so it's just important to be sensitive to their cause, and to understand where they're coming from, and just be a resource to them. Just be there for them. Just be there to listen. Sometimes don't always comment. Sometimes just listen. You know, sometimes ask some questions to help them understand themselves. Ask resourceful, sensitive questions to help them arrive at a thought process, because it's going to take some time for them to come up out of that. You know, it's damaging. It's just damaging. You know, it's not right. Um, she said, "What we know is what we show." So you can have unreasonable expectations, okay? And it's based upon knowledge, it's based upon learning, it's based upon the people that are around you. So the most important concept is that when we have family, our family is our resource, but sometimes our family isn't always right. Sometimes they're dealing with a lot of issues that are generational. And so if you come from a family with a lot of dysfunction, it's going to be difficult for you to heal with that family, because everybody got problems, damn near. Daddy got problems, mama got problems, sisters, brothers got problems, auntie, uncles got problems. And so when you're in that kind of situation, like I said, the stranger needs to be the beacon, because they need help. Our family now, in the African concept, melanated people has to be extended. We have to get back to the days of our grandparents, where you can go down the street and borrow some sugar and not make that person feel like crap just because they ain't have sugar. You know, what's sugar to you? If you can afford to buy it and you got it, you keep it, give it to them. So what? That's just my personality. You know, when I have something here and I don't need it, I've given away so I've given away so much. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it that I've been blessed enough with the spirit to give. The spirit to give is important. Okay. Um, you know, maybe I could give more. Maybe I haven't given enough. Maybe someone who knows me, I watch this video like, you ain't gave nothing. Maybe to you, but I have given. I have given. I'm a giver. That is who I am. And it doesn't bother me one bit to give. And we have to be givers again. Because what happens is, if you live in a society of givers, nobody ever wants for anything. No one ever wants for anything. And that's important. Um, the next person, thank you so much, those two sisters. You just have no idea how much you impacted my life, and validated me and made me feel that the work that I'm looking to do is important. And me meeting that sister on that Friday, or it was Thursday night going to Friday, excuse me, because you know I'm off on Fridays. I work overnights, and so when that was my last shift for the week. And so when I was getting off, I just felt so empowered. And when I went to her meeting, the funny thing about that real quick was, when I got down there, I didn't know the area, and I had landed at an address that I thought was right, and it wasn't. And the cafe was not, no one was there. And so at first I had text, someone and told them I was coming home, and I didn't just leave right then. I said, let me try this again. And I remapped it, and I looked, I went down some more, and I said, what is this address to? I Googled, what is this address to? And Google told me what the address was to. And so I mapped it, and went a few doors down and figured out I was right there. I was just so close. And when I went in, it was two sides, because the way that they're I call it gentrification. I'm sorry, they're gentrifying Houston. It's happening. But Houston is a different dynamic, because it's been diverse anyway. But folks is moving into these areas that were once dilapidated, and they're trying to build them back up. And then soon they're going to price point people out. It's just the reality. But anyway, it's just a little small cafe of these urbanites, I like to call them. These are urban folks who kind of are more liberal in their behaviors. They're more tolerant than some conservative people are. We'll talk about that another day. But it was two halves to the cafe, and so on one half, I went in, and I looked around. I said, no, that's not it. And so I went into the other half, and those sisters were sitting along the bench side to a table that they had reserved. But I thank them so much for inviting me. They just have no idea what they did to me, what they substantiated in me. That it was a confirmation and affirmation for what it is here that I'm trying to do. And I don't care how slow this ball is getting down the hill. This snowball that I'm trying to create, I wanted to create momentum, and I wanted to be something so powerful and so great that it's not even about me at all anymore. It's not my show anymore. It's the people show. It's something that becomes a catalyst for help and change. because I've been asking God my purpose for so long. You have no idea how long I've been asking God why He put me on this earth. What do He need me to do? And that relationship has cultivated over time to the Creator. What do you want me to do? Why did you make me? So this just felt really humbling for me. And I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about everybody. I want it to be about you. That's what I want. It's not about me. It's about you. I want to learn from it. But again, like I was saying, I want to move from the I to you, we, us. That's what I want. It's about us and what we're going to do. So the third person in this group, um, here's the outlier in that group. So you do a chart for those of you who have had an opportunity to do charts and build charts with data set and information, especially under statistical model. And when you're building that chart, you have that nice little group of people and they make the shape of the chart. And then you have those that are on this end and those that are on that end, to the left and to the right. Those are what you call your outliers. And so this young lady would have been the outlier. Okay. She grew up in a wholesome home. And I'm not smiling. I'm more smiling at the irony of how life is. Grew up in a wholesome home, 2-parent household. Daddy didn't play that. They had some rules to live by. She was a college graduate. She did what she's supposed to do, you know. And her husband was completely abusive to her. I'm talking about the sleeping with the enemy kind of remember that Julia Roberts movie, Sleeping with the Enemy? It's so funny how we always reference movies, but movies are arts and design, and it's an expression. And so movies talk about the things that sometimes we don't want to talk about, and it brings up those topics that we have a hard time expressing, but the movie expresses it for us. And so the movie Single White Female with Julia Roberts was speaking to the abuse and the levels of abuse women deal with. And her husband was a quote unquote perfect man, right? He was wealthy. They lived in this beautiful home, but he was slapping her butt around for, not having things straight. And this young lady was describing that kind of situation. And she had got to the point where she was wondering whether she was doing things correctly. She double checking herself, like, oh, dog, he's going to get mad. And it had got to the point where he was just beating her butt all the time. And it's awful. I hope I'm using the right terms, but he was being abusive to her, for no other reason than she existed as it became. And she said that growing up in a wholesome home and physical abuse being introduced, that there was a level of rejection that she felt. And if I'm remembering right, what she was saying, and sisters, I'm sorry, I don't want to do your story injustice, but just that rejection, I suppose, from her husband, if I'm thinking about this right, and maybe rejection, from others that didn't understand. But she said that he hit her, he choked her, he handcuffed her, and he even suffocated her with a pillow. And I'm sure this happened more than one time. Each circumstance that I just detailed here. She said that people will tell you to suck it up because they cannot deal with it. That's important. So because of their inability to cope with your situation, they push it back off on you. They don't want to be a resource anymore. They don't want to be a resource anymore because they can't handle it. And her story was very deep. She ended up getting out of there. She warned not to wear the stigma of the perpetrator. So sometimes you could become that person that is abusing you. Isn't that what we experience in post-traumatic slave syndrome? Is that we are becoming like the oppressor. We are identifying with the oppressor, and we have displayed on more occasions than none as abused people Stockholm syndrome. We love these people. We want to be like them. We jive with their culture. We have to understand that that's not normal. It's not normal. It's not normal to identify with your oppressor. It's not normal to want to adopt their culture over your own culture after you have learned that they stole your culture from you. It's how we dress. And over time, of course, that's changed. No one's dressing like that now necessarily, but we do have our own culture that has evolved into its own before it was disturbed. If our men wore wraps that kind of looked like not a dress but a wrap, and a woman wore a full dress, our men won't dress like that anymore. If you see a man dressing like that, we'll tease him. We'll tell him, what do you have on? What are you looking like? That's a symptom of a greater problem. We have to understand that. And so that was an important theme she talked about. Dealing with regrets you cannot change. That's powerful. If only I had just not let him. If only I just left him. If only I had just gotten away from him. If only, if only, if only. It's not your fault, sister. How do you convince her, though? Keep telling her. Just keep in positive reinforcement. You just keep telling her it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Well, here's something that you could change. Even if you want to say that you didn't do this correctly, here's something that you can change. But it's very difficult to convince someone of this magnitude, especially the way this sister is describing. This man was doing all kinds of things to her. And the other hard part about it is recognizing that this man has some serious issues and he needed help too. So how do we find the compassion in our heart to help the abusers? Steep. Blaming game and being angry with God. That's real. I remember one time I was talking to my late mother-in-law, as I call her, from my oldest child, his dad, his mom. I was close to her. When she passed, it was hard for me because she was honestly like a mother to me, not taken away from my grandmother who raised me, but she was like a mother to me. She had become a mother to me. She would call me and nag me that I hadn't called. And I even regret using the word nag, but she had nagged me that I hadn't called. And I would fuss and fight with her like she was my mom. And she was my son's grandmother. And that lady did so much for me. Hindsight is 2020. And I'm sorry for any day I ever made her feel like she wasn't appreciated. But she told me she was angry with God when she learned that she was ill. And so when that lady said this, I realized that she was angry with God. Let me see this thought that I wrote down. Husband no stay and chose to help get. Okay, so she remarried. Okay. And one powerful thing that she said when she remarried, when she was dealing with her husband, I guess she was kind of warning him in a way, like, you don't know what you're dealing with. And he told her, oh, yes, I do. That's powerful right there. He told her, oh, I know exactly what I'm getting into. I know who you are. I know what you're dealing with. And I chose you. And she calls her husband her best friend, her peanut butter and jelly, I think is what she said. That sister is healing. It's an ongoing process. She made sure to reiterate that it was an ongoing process, that she's healing. But I feel so rejoiceful that she had, out of the table, the two of the sisters so far have found their anew. Because the very first sister I mentioned, she had remarried too, when she didn't think she was going to. And it was, someone else in the church, which obviously was a sore spot for her. So I did skip over part of her story. I apologize, sister. I don't mean to ruin your story. It was powerful. But she remarried. And so that's an important thing, to be able to heal from it, and for someone to know your story, whether loosely or deeply, and help you get through that. That is important. That is not something to be taken lightly. And so we have to rejoice in that she that her husband knew who she was and loved on her enough to get her through it. And they're still together for quite some number of years. If I'm not mistaken in the number, she's been in that for a little while now. But she did have a child from that, that prior situation. So that's deep. She said, basically, you got to go through the process. It is a process, and you have to let the process go through, basically. Um, and so we talked about the don't take on your abuser's tendencies and mindset. So all these things are very important in identifying that you are being abused, accepting it because you're not weak or messed up or toe down because you've been abused by someone. You are in the victim status, but you can come out of that victim status by um, trying your best to address that issue and finding you an exit strategy. Now, some women are in very dangerous situations that if that man knew she was leaving, he is going to pursue her and he will attack her and he will be lethal. Okay, so we can't just assume it's as easy as leaving. And then some women are very financially dependent on the man. That's another sign, is him creating a financial dependency to where she feels she can't leave. Or people feel guilty because of their children, even though it's bizarre, they're in this horrible relationship that their children are seeing, but they think that they're taking their children away from the fathers who are being this person that they need healing from. It's healing all the way around. It's not just the woman that needs healing. That man is damaged. It's the reason why he's doing that stuff. And it ain't right. I'm not saying that we should just feel so sorry for him because he made his choice, but I'm saying that there's a problem there too. And we can't ignore it because all he's going to do is go on to the next person and abuse him. We have to try to fix him too. Damaged family. Damage from the overseer beating the backs of our ancestors. Damaged family from the overseer sexually abusing our ancestors. Damaged family from the overseer expressing their dominance over a people who can't figure out why God has forsaken them. Can you imagine the anger they had with God? I've been angry with the Creator for my life sometime. And I haven't dealt with half the things some of these people have dealt with. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? We are a blessing, and we don't even know it. We are a blessing to this world. We just forgot who we are. We have forgotten. So the next sister, I believe, was the organizer because she was speaking in between each guest. And she also was a sister who wore her hair in a mohawk style, and she had her extension locks in. And these sisters were just, now that I look at my people, and I'm not going to lie to y'all, I had become a person in my life as a youth that began to judge other women, judge the way she got on, judge the way she looked, judge the way she walked, judge who she with. I have become that person. Embarrassing as it is to say, I have become that person, but I have grown. And I apologize to anyone that I ever thought that way to, right here to the public, because I had no right and I was wrong. All these sisters in their various beauty, and they were beautiful. That's how I saw them. They were beautiful. And they were expressing their stories and their life and their trials and their tribulations. Because, see, the bottom line, family, is these are human beings with wants and desires. They want for their families. They want for themselves. They're human first. And they deserve to be respected. And they deserve to be loved. Who am I to judge them? I will not anymore. I stopped a while ago judging people. But I will not anymore. I will not anymore. I will try to help people the best way that I can, the best way that I know how. And if I can't help, I will find a resource. That's who I want to be in this growth of my life. Next sister is the organizer. She talked about forgiveness of self. I may have missed part of hers because I was a little late. She talked about longing for death. That's deep. Just rather die than live this existence. I can relate to that, but I'll talk to you all about that in another story. Longing for death. That's a deep feeling when you feel that way. It's deep. It is deep. It's a real thing, though, and it comes from a real place. She says to live, she had to forgive. Some of the attributes you display are timidness. Timidness. And she talked about paying attention to the red flags because her testimony also is that she had a fiance that she had to let it go because it wasn't right. And addressing it even if it is painful. Looking it right in the face. And the last sister that had a chance to tell her story, which I told y'all was a male there, and I'll tell you the story about that real quick. And there were two other sisters. There's two sisters in front of me, one in the middle that I knew and had met. I didn't know her, but I met her, and she invited me. The sister in the middle, or second to the end, and sister on the end. And there was a sister at the head of the table, and then the sister that was the organizer, a youngster that was there listening to all this information. There was another young lady that came from behind there, and she was doing the pictures and the recording. And then you had the brother sitting next to me. Okay, so that was all of us that was there. So this young lady who was at the end of the table, she's an inspirational woman. You could tell that she had graduated, but she said something so powerful. She said she had never been abused, hit, sexually abused, none of that. Grew up in a 2-family household, but she was a victim to herself. Self-hate. Whoa! I'm not saying that's more powerful than the other sister's story, but that was deep that sister could admit that. Self-hate. The sister had a lot to say. She asked the question, do survivors love themselves? No amount of material goods helped, but a relationship with Jesus helped her. I have my own spiritual designation and thoughts about Christianity, but I can respect if a particular religion or spiritual belief is going to help pull a person out of something, it has use. We have to stop ostracizing each other because we don't have the same belief system. That's not unity. In ancient Africa, there were groups who believed in lots of things, and they believed in multiple gods. And because they believed in multiple gods, they had more tolerance for each other. There wasn't this dogma of one God, you ain't gonna make it. They didn't operate like that, sisters and brothers. Family, you have to understand that what we call paganism now and make it out to be a dirty word was not in ancient times. Was not. And people may say it was in the past, and we'll get into that later, but I'm just giving you the concept. What we know now is not what our ancestors studied. It just wasn't. And we'll learn more about that later. Another topic for another show. She made the comment, Cinderella was still herself at midnight. She said it in another way, so I'm paraphrasing, but the idea was Cinderella was still herself come midnight. Ain't that the truth? You can get dressed up, go out, and look like the dime piece that you are, but inside you feel like the lowest of the low. You can dress it up, but you can't run from it. Asking God to help get rid of the self we do not like. So that was important. She wanted to separate herself from the part that she didn't like. She didn't want to be that person anymore that looked at herself and didn't love herself. Because she's talking about self-hate. Facing the man in the mirror, as she referred to Michael Jackson. Rest in peace, Michael. We could talk about Michael for a whole show. In addition to admitting the problem, but dealing with the situation. So not only admittance she was talking about, but learning to deal with the solutions that are presented. Because the sister that I told you about that I met had mentioned that also later in extension to what this sister was talking about. I mean, it was just love going around that room and just information. We were giving each other so much information. I said, this is the sisterhood. This is what we are. We don't hate each other. We've been pitted against each other. She brought up a light skin, dark skin argument, and we all nodded our head about how dark skinned sisters have been. You cute, but that's bull crap. If we could stop doing that like yesterday, I would greatly appreciate it. And it bothers me. You see my color. I can't stand it. I cannot stand that. And I cannot stand it because I have family that are variations thereof. We could hold the Rainbow Coalition in my own damn family. And my first cousins, I love them beautiful sisters. Love them. Love them. And they are a variety, including my sister. My sister's a brown skinned sister. She's not the same color as me. And is beautiful. What I tell you, I don't even think she know how beautiful she is. She's beautiful. I always looked up to her my whole life. Beautiful. Wanted to be just like her. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So we can't underestimate the power of words. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me is a lie. It is a self-defense mechanism. Words hurt and they matter. They matter. Stop telling brown sugar sisters, mahogany sisters, that they're so cute to be dark. Or you so cute to be dark. Stop it, family, please. For the love of the universe, stop it. Don't ever say it again. I told her the flip side to that coin after she got done, and I almost wept up with tears in my eyes. I said, you know, the other side of that coin, sister, of being the darker hue is the lighter hue sisters catch it too. You know how we catch it? Because the society has treated our beautiful sisters so bad that when they look at our mulatto looking asses, the light skinned chick, she automatically hates you. Transference. It's not her fault. It's not your fault. Society created this social ill. What does it go back to? Y'all know. I ain't even got to answer that question. House nigga, field nigga. What a job these mutations have created on us. I have a theory of it all, but we'll talk about it later. And there are light-skinned sisters that perpetuate this. We talking about the elephant in the room. You know what show you on? We have light-skinned sisters that perpetuate this mess. Lighter is better. This thing is so nasty that even my son was thinking it one time when he was younger. Well, light-skinned people are better. He's saying this before my brown-skinned son and my brown-skinned cousin. We looking at him like he crazy. Oh, we toe into that ass. We toe into that ass. And we got that ass straight. If he think it, he better not say it around me again. I don't think he thinks it no more. I'll have a conversation with him. I still have yet to interview him for you all. But the flip side of the coin, as I expressed to her, and that was before I made my exit. And I'm gonna finish her stuff up. But before I made my exit from the meeting, let me finish this up, and I'll tell y'all about that in a second because that's how I will end this. Dealing in solutions, survivor versus conqueror. Now, I like this argument that she made because she was saying that we could be survivors, but survivors still put you into the status of being a victim. But being a conqueror means that you are in control of your destiny. You have paved the way. You are the innovator. You're no longer dealing in victim, but you're dealing in accomplishment and moving beyond that. And I thought that was powerful with that sister. And she spoke for a while on that because I could tell she really believed in that. She gave some spiritual reference for my Christian friends out here. Romans chapter 8, verse 38. And she gave that after she talked about survivor versus conqueror. I want to keep it in the order in which she gave. Moving beyond. She talked about the ability to move beyond is so important. Once you figured out you got a problem, once you've identified the problem, now you need to create solutions and you need to put those solutions into work. Speaking proclamation, becoming a conqueror. Speak it, become it. If you say it, if you put it into the universe, there's power in language. We have lost our mother tongue, another subject for another topic. We have lost our mother tongue or a variation thereof. We are so far away from our mother tongue that the tones in which we speak do not resonate in this universe. You have to understand that our speech is a vibration. We're getting into metaphysics. It's deep. Our speech is vibration, and that vibration resonates. You know how somebody could say something to you, feel it. You feel it inside your soul. Someone could say something to you that's so powerful you feel it, or so damning you feel it. It makes you feel funny inside. Tone matters. Speaking, proclamation, becoming a conqueror. Victim mentality is another thing that she mentioned. And so I had to call the meeting short, and she gave Isaiah 43:2. They went on, to finish, but I had to go. And I haven't heard from those sisters yet. I pray to God these sisters call me because I know we can build something very powerful. They already got something going on, but I see it clear as day. Something powerful can go. So what was going on around that table was beautiful. So let me tell you what else happened after that. The brother hadn't said anything the whole time. And I don't know his sexual orientation, but I assume that he could have been homosexual. And I hope I'm not misquoting the brother if he happens to watch this show. If you're not homosexual, forgive me. But if you are, I'm okay with it. I have a different ideology behind that. I have strong thoughts about variations thereof. But like I told them at the table, before I left and gave out my card to let them know who I was, I told them, or gave my information, I told them that you may not agree with everything that I say, but what I'm trying to build is unity. And in unity, we have to be able to tolerate each other in our differences. I don't look like you. I don't smell like you. I don't talk like you. But somehow, some way, I can still have a conversation with you and be civil, and I can still help you in your plight because I love you. I told them I loved them before we left. Powerful thing that happened. So she gave the moderator, the orator, the organizer gave us these bags. And I don't deserve to give, but she still gave it. Thank you, sister. Inside this bag, oh, damn it. And see, I forgot. I was supposed to wear the pearls, sister. I'm sorry. I have them somewhere else. I still have the pearls, definitely, but I wanted to wear them for the show, and I'm so sorry I forgot that. But I do have your survivor bracelet. This is what she brought to me, and it looks like it's kind of hard to see, but it says survivor engraved on that. She has a card here that says stay strong. It says hope. Let me pop it open. Oh, how thoughtful. My people. I love my people. We love to be around each other, and we try to run from each other, but I'm telling you, I love my people. I love my people. It's just something about us. There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. Sister, that's going on the table. That is going on the table. And she didn't know I like to collect glasses. I got so many glasses, ridiculous. But I put that goes in the mouth of the ancestor because the ancestor speaks that truth. I put it in the mouth of the ancestor. The ancestor speaks that truth. I believe in symbolism. She gave us some sweet tarts for Valentine's. Thank you. Some bubble gum for our stanky breath. Because it'll be popping sometime. Some Hershey Kisses. I start to sing the Tootsie Roll song, but that's not the Hershey Kiss song. The world looks mighty good to me. 'Cause Tootsie Rolls are all I see. Whatever it is, I think I see becomes a Tootsie Roll to me. But these are not. These are not Tootsie Rolls. They are Hershey Kisses. I'm tripping. It's getting late, y'all. I'm getting delirious. And we're running on the 2-hour mark. But I think my shows are probably going to, be patient with me, family. I think they're going to run 2 hours. I'm only doing them once a week. I have lots of information I want to disperse to you all. I still haven't even gone over this crime statistics stats. And I'm going to get that through. We're going to get to that because you need to know and understand that we're not just making this stuff up. So she gave us some gum. She gave us some nerves. I'm thankful for it, sister. I thank you all for having me. I hope you all are watching my show. I'm going to start live streaming eventually. I'm building up enough audience where I think live streaming is going to be appropriate and will work. But I am going to build this like this. This is a special thing that you gave to me. And so I am making it special. We're going to make black folks great again. There is wisdom in your opposer and your oppressor. I will make black folks great again. Because we never lost it. We just forgot who we were. We are powerful. People like to say kings and queens. All of us weren't kings and queens. We just wasn't. Some of us were common folks. We was farmers, you know, agrarians, cattle herders, warriors, mothers, daughters, sisters, brothers. We all that. We all that. But I just made a little shrine here, sister, to what you gave me. And the kids better not touch my stuff. I might eat it. It might be just forever. Should put used to it, but I kind of get all sentimental like that. Sometimes I could be a hoarder, but I used to throwing stuff away though too. But that's the little glass she gave us, and I appreciate that. And I just put that little band around the glass, and so that is going as part of the shrine, sister. You have earned your spot on the shrine table. Voila. Voila. And as you can see, I got my sister praise and I got the cross there. The reason why I still believe in the cross is because the cross came from the concept of the Ankh. So I won't get rid of the cross. I know the cross means to the Christians on the Calvary. I've been a Christian. I was raised Baptist, but I have changed my belief system. I have modified it. I feel that I have grown beyond that, if you will understand what that means. Those who study the Kemetic sciences and philosophies and spirituality understand exactly what I'm saying. I have grown beyond that, but it doesn't mean I have abandoned my base. It's what I learned. But I'm learning more and I'm not afraid to grow. You can't put me into a box. Don't fit. So, the powerful thing that happened at the end of this was the sisters had welcomed me with open arms. They didn't know me from Adam's apple. They allowed me to take notes on their life. They didn't look at me funny. As a matter of fact, I think they were like, wow, she's writing this stuff down. She's got notes. I needed to write this information down. And the brother sitting next to me, she gave us the 2 pearls and she offered us the earring pearls. She offered us the pearls to give to whomever we want to at the table and start giving an affirmation. She wanted us to start affirming each other, telling each other how beautiful we are, how wonderful we are, how smart you are, how intelligent you are, how grateful we are to have you with us so that you could be that contribution. We have to get back to that. We can't be afraid. Does that mean we're not going to have disagreements? No. Does it mean that we're not probably going to have people that we just don't really care for? No. But it means that we learn through our spirit walk to go beyond the flesh, to begin to address each other in the spirit, to not allow this temporary temple to be the reason why we exist. It's not the only reason why we exist. The average spiritual training teaches you there is a beyond. I don't care what you believe in, except for those that believe in atheism. They don't necessarily believe there's a beyond. They believe in self-destiny. But I'm going to show them how that is nothing but an aspect of African spirituality as we go along. It's all relative. Our ancestors were powerful. They were deep. They thought a lot about everything. And they came up with some pretty good remedies. Now, at the end of this meeting, the brother, I gave him the pearl. And I said, I know you all wanted to give pearls around the sister that gave the survivor doctrine. She gave her pearls to the young lady and told her she's beautiful. Don't ever let someone tell you you're not beautiful. You have purpose. Live in your purpose. Walk in your purpose. Find out what you need to do, who you're going to be, basically. Okay, so she was giving that young sister that affirmation that some of our parents didn't know to give. We don't want to blame our parents because they were doing the best that they can. Even if they did some shady stuff, they were doing and working with the template that they were given. They were not given a fair shake, more than likely, as well. We are talking about the cell theory. Out of life comes life. From the cell comes another cell. And so if out of that cell birthed strife and horrible things, that is what you will get. And then some other thereafter. So a cell doesn't necessarily have to be exactly what the other cell is, but it is going to have some of that purpose of the old cell. Okay. And then it was my turn. I told them I needed to go. I gave the talk about the light skin, flip side of the coin, that light skin sisters are hated by her dark skin chocolate sisters, and that we catch it on both ends because the white man really don't like our ass either, because we a reminder that her husband was dipping out. Truth be told, that's the elephant in the room. My fair skin is no more than a reminder to white folks that her man like his sisters still. He has an affinity towards her. He can't let it go because we are them and they are us. So anyway, I told that brother to walk in his faith. He didn't talk that, or walk in his purpose. He didn't talk that much, but I knew that he had a story, and I knew that he was listening because he was trying to understand, and that his story was something that needed to come out, and he needed to talk. And he was like, okay, maybe I was off. I wasn't. Trust me on that. Some things you could just feel. We are connected with this earth. It's just who we are. And the heavier your melanation, the more connected that you are. So the darker skinned people, whose melanation is expressing, it's powerful. Use it. Use it. Use it. It's powerful. Your pineal gland is active. Use it. So the most powerful thing that happened when I was getting ready to leave, and I was telling them, okay, bye-bye, everybody. And they were like, bye, girl. And so the sister at the edge of the table that had been quiet the whole time, kind of been on her phone and things like that, and it didn't seem like she was kind of paying attention, but she was, obviously. And she said, sister, basically, she said, no, before you go, I was going to give my purse to you. And I said, me? She said, yes. She said, when you walked into this building, she said, I don't know what it was about you, but you gave off an aura. Whoo! What? You gave off an aura. Do you know how powerful that was to me? That sister made my day. She made my day. She helped me know that I don't care how damn sleepy, I'm tired. I just got done doing homework. I was like, I might just do the show on Monday. I said, no, I told these people I'm going to do the show today. I'm going to get them done on Sunday. It might be a little late in Sunday, but I'm going to do them on Sunday. What time is it, y'all? It's 11:39. I'm going to make the deadline. It's going to take a little time to download this video. I'm trying to figure out the format to download it in. That's a little bit faster, but I'm going to get this video downloaded. But I made it on Sunday, okay? I started 2 hours ago, okay? And so when that sister said that, she made me so happy. Because and then when I handed out the little things, and what she said was, now that you've handed these things out saying what you do, she said now it makes sense. I've been asking God for so long what my purpose is. This making me emotional. I've been asking God for so long, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing? And do you know that sister that I didn't even know helped me confirm that? And then I had a conversation a little bit later on with the old friend of mine. I'll put it like that, because I'm not a messy person. I don't like to, sometimes the things that you say, like I said, words matter. So I had a conversation with old friend Kaylin's dad, and he told me some things about what he saw when he met me that he had never told me. He told me that there was he was saying there was an aura around me. He said, there are people with me. That's what he told me. He said, there are people with you. I felt that when I first met you, that there was spirit with you when I met you. He said, that's when I saw when I met you. We'll talk about that another day, how I met my baby daddy. I don't like saying baby daddy. Oh, I had came up with a word. Oh, I got to really meditate on this word because I wanted to put it out there for us to stop calling our counterpart baby daddy. Either was progenitor or something to that degree. Son, you leaving?
Yeah, for a second I had a paper prepared. Walmart.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that, y'all. Was it progenitor? It was something. I'm gonna think about it, y'all. But I had a name and a term that I wanted us to start using instead of this baby daddy, baby mama stuff. It don't sit well with me. It's a negative connotation in my mind. I know we said out of love to a certain degree, but I had coined a term the other day. That's what I get for not writing it down. I think of it like either it was progenitor, co-sponsor. I'll think of it later, y'all. I'm sorry, I forgot it. It'll come to me though. So anyway, this sister gave me an affirmation. Have y'all ever had that before? An affirmation where someone confirms for you who you are, that you know that you are, but you can't explain it, and you don't want people to think that you're like full of yourself, but you just, it's, I don't know how to explain it. Like I told, my business partner the other day, I said, listen, I can't shut up about this stuff. I couldn't if I tried. It just comes out. It comes out in every conversation. I'm almost obsessed with it. You understand? I can't explain it. I can't stop talking about pro-blackness, black empowerment, how to make my people better. I can't stop talking about it. I can't. Pandora's box is open. I have a job to do, y'all. Whether you want to believe me or not, whether you think I'm tooting my own horn or not, but I said I was going to stop speaking to I, but this segment is just about, what this sister affirmed for me. And so I am speaking in the first person again, because it is going to be the third and fourth and fifth person, you, us, they, because, I want us, really us, fourth and fifth person, us collectively. But I've been asking our creator, please use me. Like seriously, I was begging, please use me. Please use me. Use me. Use me. Just use me. Just tell me what you want me to do. Just tell me what you want me to do. I've been asking for so long. Y'all, we are powerful. We are deeper than you know. When I begin to take you through the journey of me being a young girl to where I am now, you will begin to understand. But that's a show for another day. But thank you, sister, at the end of the table, that I never got your name because I was rushing, trying to get out of there. So I had other stuff to do. But you made my day, sister. You confirmed something that the creator had been holding, created something else. Something else. Woo! Some people will understand this and some people won't. Some people look at it like, that's weird, but that's okay. We're not at the same place. We're not all at the same place. We're not supposed to be. We're like little sleeper cells. We're little sleeper cells. Trust and believe that some people know that you're sleeper cells. They trying to stop your ass from waking up. It's my job to wake you up. It's other people's job, like myself too, to wake you up. And they've been called and they've been doing the work and they've been busy out here and they've been putting it all on the line for you. Putting it all on the line for you, brothers and sisters. But that was powerful for me. And it was so powerful because the way that it happened. When I met that sister, I knew. I knew as soon as she started opening her mouth, and I instigated her story as far as getting her to open up to me, and she opened right on up. It didn't even take her no, I ain't had to do that much course, and she just opened right on up. And she was telling me some things about what she's trying to do, and I was telling her some things about what I was trying to do. And by the way, sister, if you listen to me, if you get a chance, if you listen to my show, I know it's a little long. You got to listen to my show maybe in bits and stop it and come back. But it's just the design of it. It's going to be a little bit lengthy show each time because I'm only doing it once a week. That's what I have time for now. But sister, you gave me your trauma leaves clues. But I wonder, did you mean to write an at here? I'm going to try to send you another email because the email I tried to send you that day to confirm where you were, we didn't write a .com, or I don't know what the heck we wrote here. But I can't get through to you, sister. Sister in love, that I met you at the hospital. And yes, I need you to reach out to me. Send me an email, please, because you have my information. I hope it didn't get lost upon you either, because we need to be in contact, okay? We need to be working together. So that is most of the information. Now we're going to spend this last little bit going through these statistics, because it's important that we place numbers. We can't just arbitrarily talk about things without at least placing some scholastic information to it. So the WHO has released information, a report of violence, okay, and this is global, okay. The World Health Organization, the WHO, they deal with public health on a global level. Okay, and so if you ever want to know about different things around the world, infectious disease, anything, they have their website is comprehensive. It has plenty of information. And so as I'm going through here, it's talking about types of violence, how it could be prevented, roots of violence, an ecological model. That would be interesting to read through. I got this right off their website in case you're curious. Youth violence is their chapter 2. Child abuse and neglect by parents and other caregivers. Let's go to that. That's on page. Let me write that down. That is on page 57. Again, I got the pen that don't work. What did I do with the pen that does work? Here we go. Here we go now. Page 57. Okay, and then that's because this is dealing in chapters, y'all. Violence so tough, they got chapters. Violence by intimate partners is chapter 4. That starts on page 87 of this particular report. Abuse of the elderly. We don't talk about that often, but that's a real subject, y'all. So I just want to get to the numbers I'm going to get down to on this. Sexual violence, that's a big one. That's a huge problem. Pedophilia, child pornography, all these things probably fall under that. That's a long chapter. And then you got self-directed violence. We don't like to talk about that, do we? But that's a reality. Self-hate is real. And then they go on to collective violence. So I don't really want to get into that, but I'm going to go to these pages. Let me hit my page down button. So this report, the Ford, interestingly enough, it said the 20th century would be remembered as a century marked by violence. And they have a picture of Nelson Mandela here, which is interesting. I don't recognize this lady, but her face looks familiar. So this is the preface that it's going through. So I'm going to get down to the pages that I want to be at. Let me see where my page numbers at. Oh, there you go. 4. Okay, so let's see. So the first page we wrote down was page 57. 57. I can't wait till I learn to share my screen. I downloaded an app on here and I restarted my computer and it took a long time to restart it, which is why there was a delay in this showing. So I just went ahead and did my homework and got that done. I did really well on my test. I'm very thankful for that. Okay, so page 57, where am I at? 54, we're almost there. Okay, so page 57, this is chapter 3, child abuse and neglect by parents and other caregivers. I couldn't imagine, but I'm not walking in everybody's shoes, so I can't judge them. I don't know why they would do that. So it goes in to talk about the types of abuse. I'm going to, in the comments, I'm going to begin to reference different things so that you all, if you just want to reference the material that I'm putting in here and not have to listen to the whole show again, then I'll do that for you, no problem. It talks about how child abuse and neglect is defined. It's going on to talk about the types of abuse. I want to get down to the statistics and numbers. You got physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and neglect. We know those abuses. Most of us who have been living in this life or studied it. The extent of the problem. You got non-fatal abuse. The manifestations. They talk about the shaken infant, the battered child, sexual abuse, neglect. And we're about to get into some percentages here. So you got 2/3 of parents reported whipping their children, and 45% confirmed that they had hit, kicked, and beaten them. A survey of households in Romania, for example, found that 4.6% of children reported suffering severe and frequent physical abuse. In Ethiopia, 21% of urban school children and 64% of rural school children reported bruises or swellings to their body. Now we get into the United States. An estimated rate of physical abuse of 49 per 1,000 children was obtained from this survey when the following behaviors were included. Hitting the child with an object other than on the buttocks, kicking the child, beating a child and threatening a child with a knife or a gun, y'all. Did y'all hear that number? That's 1995 survey in the United States asked parents how they discipline their children. An estimated rate of physical abuse of 49 per 1,000 children. Let's take the numerator divided by the denominator 1,000. 49 divided by 1,000, and you get your percentage. In a cross-sectional survey of children in Egypt, 37 reported being beaten or tied up by their parents, and 26% reported physical injuries such as fractures, loss of consciousness, or permanent disability as a result of being beaten or tied up. In Korea, 45% confirmed they had hit, kicked, or beaten their children. These are just different points here. Okay, here go my chart. They have Chile, Egypt, India, Philippines, and the USA as a 6-month report of harsh or moderate forms of physical punishment in the prior 6 months in this 1995 report. That they hit the child with an object, not on the buttocks. Percentage-wise, Chile's 4%, Egypt 26%, India 36%, Philippines 21%, and USA 4%. I wonder are people telling the truth in the USA? But that's what's reported. Kick the child. In Chile, they didn't kick the child. So the only thing they do is hit the child with an object, but not on the buttocks in Chile. But the Chile is 0 all the way down for all the other categories I'm going to read to. They just said, no, we don't do that. And so did the U.S. The U.S. said, no, we don't do that. Somebody's lying. I'm sorry. But these are the numbers. Kick the child, 2% Egypt, India, 10%, Philippines, 6%, USA, 0%, Chile, 0%. Burned the child, 0% Chile, Egypt, burned the child, Egypt, 2%, India, 1%. Now you're talking about a population of people, so that's interesting. But the report, they're not going to interview everybody, so it's a fraction and they compound the numbers. That's how statistics works with numbers in a funny way like that. Philippines 0, USA 0. Beat the child 0 Chile, 25% Egypt, India. Somebody made a mistake because they didn't put a number here. Philippines 3%, USA say 0. USA also said 0% severe punishment. Threaten the child with a knife. U.S. says 0, Egypt says 0, Chile says 0. The only people admitted to it was India and the Philippines. Choke the child. Chile 0, Egypt 1%, India 2%, Philippines 1%, USA 0. So I don't want to go. That was a severe punishment. I don't want to go through all the other punishment. Now, when you go through the moderate, though, you get some numbers. Okay, let's just deal with the USA. Okay. Spanked on the buttocks with a hand, 40%. Hit the child on the buttocks with an object, 21%. Slap the child face or head, 4%. Pulled the child's hair. They don't have data there. Shook the child. They got a question not asked in the survey. Okay, so that's what that means. Pulled the child's hair. That question was in the USA survey. Shook the child, 9%. Now, we know damn well that ain't accurate with shaking baby syndrome going on. We got numbers to talk about that. Hit the child with knuckles. Pinch the child. Twist the child's ear. Force the child to kneel or stand. And put hot pepper in the child's mouth. So none of those were a number except to pinch the child 5%. So that's just that, okay? So we got numbers on that. Let's go down to page 87 because we are running into the 12 o'clock hour, and I don't want to keep you on. So here go rates of psychological punishment in the previous 6 months. USA, yelled or screamed at the child, 85%. Called the child name, 17%. Cursed at the child, 24%. Refused to speak to the child. That question was not asked. Threatened to kick the child out of the house, 6%. Threatened abandonment. That was not asked. Threatened evil spirits. That was not asked. Locked the child out of the house. That was not asked. But in other countries, those numbers, with the exception of India, didn't have some of the questions asked. But their numbers were, the child were kind of close to the U.S., but the highest called the child names was Egypt, 44% was the highest. Cursed at the child, Egypt carries the highest. Refused to speak of the child, Egypt carries the highest. Threatened to kick the child out, Philippines carries the highest at 26%. I'm sorry, I should have said the other ones. 48% Egypt, 51, and 44 in order to what I said. Threatened abandonment, The Philippines has the highest rate of 48%. Threaten evil spirits. The Philippines has the higher rate of 24. Lock the child out of the household. Highest percentage was the Philippines. But the U.S. hadn't been asked that question, or three other questions thereof. Excuse me. You can tell I'm tired. Here's another table. Rates of nonviolent disciplinary practices. I'm not really interested in that. You guys can read that after I put the link in here for you, so you can see it and read it for yourself. Okay, so we're going to go down to page 87. That's my next interest. 87, because I'm curious to know this next group, and I think I might skip over violence by intimate partners. Yeah, I was very interested. The children and the intimate partners probably interest me the most. The other numbers are important, don't get me wrong, but we running up against time, and I don't really want to go too far over 12 o'clock. It's already 11:58, so that's these numbers. This is a big chart. Physical assault on women by an intimate male partner, selected population-based studies, 1982 to 1999. Because you have to understand, when they do these studies, they have to go back in time because they'll start it at a particular time and they'll let it carry on. And then they'll revisit that report when they have the resources to redo the numbers. So sometimes it's about resources and availability of those who are qualified to pull this data and poll. It's a lot of work. Which is my field. That's what I'm going into. And so it's not easy to collect all this data and compile it and analyze it and put it on a chart. And, it's a lot. So they've got it by continent. So Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean. I'm going to go to North America. Canada and United States are being compared with each other. So the categories are the year of study, what areas they covered, the sample size, and proportion of women physically assaulted by the partner. Remember, those are our categories, okay? So in Canada and the United States, they broke the numbers down differently between Toronto, and then they did a national average, and then they went national completely with the United States. And so remember I said they had a sample size. So the sample size with Canada in Toronto is 420. The sample size nationally within Canada is 12,300. And the sample size nationally in the United States is 8,000. Okay. And then the next category we talked about, they have some numbers attributed to the study population. I'll have to look at what those mean. And then they did the ages. So the age group that they did in North America was 18 to 64 in Toronto, greater than 18 years of age nationally in Canada, and greater than 18 in the United States. So that's your age group. And then the proportion of women physically assaulted by a partner percentage breakdown. Okay, so the first category is during the previous 12 months, in a current relationship, or ever. Those are your three groups that I'm going to read across the line on. So try to remember that when I'm reading these. So in the 18 to 64 group, they didn't ask the question of the other two categories I told you about. But for if they've ever been abused, the percentage is 27%. The national average of Canada is 29%. They have some subscripts here, so I will have to look at what those subscripts are saying. And then in the United States, it was at 22%. That is still high, y'all. Y'all talking about on average of millions of people. So now you're getting to hundreds of thousands of people that are being affected. If I did the math on that, and I told you that the United States quantity numbers ever, if I just stuck with the ever category, and I know that 8,000 people were surveyed in the United States, and 22% of them, that's 1,760 people. But what you do in qualitative analysis, and when you're working with statistical data, your population size, you can take a formula and you can compound it, and it will tell you what the likely numbers are nationally. Okay, so if I had to make a ballpark guess at this 1,760 people number based upon a population size of 8,000, we know that in the U.S. the population is at let me look at this, see if I can do this number for you real quick to give you an idea. Go back. I'm gonna put these links in here for y'all so y'all can have access to all this stuff. But I'm not gonna do it till tomorrow morning because I'm tired, y'all. I'm telling you, I'm tired. I'm not even thinking straight. U.S. population. Let's see what our numbers say. And these are as of okay. So we're 323 million. So this is only represent how much the population. 3.1. That's really only represent about 5% of the population. And so basically what's happening here, if I tried to compound this number, so that really was only interviewing about, well, that's way less than that. That would be like not even a whole percent of the population. So if I had to do a ballpark guess on this, and you're talking about 22%, so if we did this model, they already came, well, they did the percentage for me, so if I can take this back. So you're talking about roughly about 71,000 people are afflicted with this, which that's a lot. And I think that's still a lowball number because I might have to relook at my calculation. But if I'm just trying to generalize it, you're talking about 71,000 people are reporting that, or that might even be 710,000 people, or maybe 710,000 people are reporting that they have been abused. And excuse me, I'm tired. I'm thinking about these numbers loosely. But these people have been abused, reported being abused ever in a relationship. That's not a number to wince at, okay? That's not a number to wince at. So those are the numbers for North America and South America. I'm going to stop there. I will put this link up for you all to look at this and evaluate these reports yourself. And this is a report on violence. We have a real problem with violence in our world, okay? And because we have this problem with violence, it gives life to a lot of other things. People who experience violence and trauma in their life have other tertiary issues because of that, secondary issues. You know, you can't just leave it at that number like, oh, that's their problem. No, these people go out and they be violent to other people. And so it compounds. It's not simple interest, it's compound interest, okay? And so I thank you all for listening to my show. I hope I've given some insight on things. I know my shows are a little lengthy. Again, they're going to be that way by design because I'm only coming to you once a week, okay? So if I came to you in a half-hour show every day, then it'd be different. But I don't have the resources to do that right now. So all mine is crunched into this. And I'm pretty sure I got into all the topics that I want to talk about, which was that sexual assault with the young lady, which gave rise to what I want to talk to you all about. I didn't get a chance to interview my son with you all so you can get to know me and my family a little bit better and understand who we are. And I know I pulled up some CDC information too, so I'll put that CDC information in there too, which the Centers for Disease Control is us here in the U.S., so they're going to really work on those numbers. The World Health Organization is dealing with everyone. They have a astronomical job that they have to do in compiling data. And I think it's amazing that they even were able to interview 8,000 people. That's a lot to coordinate. So some of the questions I wrote down real quick about that case with the young lady, and maybe some of you all have the answers and can type it into the comments. Where was the child's parents during this incident that child was on video? Was there a history of sexual abuse or any abuse in the household or following this child as far as sexual abuse in their history? Where did this happen, in home or outside the home, which I think as they stated in the article that they were visiting back and forth to homes. Does the predator have a history, which we've already determined? These are some of the questions you want to ask about these people that have this kind of affliction to them. Did the mom know about this prior to it hitting the internet, which people have suffered in silence because their parents know and they won't help them? Oh, which I just watched a movie on Netflix that spoke to this that I was going to refer you all to. It's called Where the Children Play. Where the Children Play. Black film. So that's why I'm referring it. Very powerful. That movie made me cry a little bit. It was sad, but it was basically about dealing with that suffering in silence and family issues that are deep. And so I'm gonna put that reference in there too, as far as a movie in the comments. When I wake up, I'm gonna put all these things in there for you. I better write that down because this brain of mine got so much stuff in it. Where children play, I think it was called. I'll look it up on Netflix again, but it's on Netflix. You might be able to find it other places. But I appreciate Netflix. They have a lot of independent films now. They're battling with Disney. If you don't know that battle, look it up because Disney is trying to dismantle them. And I hope they are unsuccessful because I find anybody who does not like the spirit of competition, the devil. That's what I really believe in my heart. If you don't like competition, you are the devil. You are insecure and you cannot handle the truth. But I appreciate you all for listening to me. Thank you for being a part of the family of Elephant in the Ear. I want you to help me grow. Tell a friend. I've been in a grocery store handing out information, and I really want to help everyone as I can, as I'm available to, as I have the resources to. So, as we say on the Elephant in the Room, walk with me. Walk with me.